What's good, guys? I'm Jon the Chief, and for this video, it's gonna be on the Bloodied melee build. This is one of my favorite builds to use in Fallout 76, and it is amazing how much damage you can deal. So, for this build, you're gonna see this right here. I'm gonna one-hit kill a Scorch Beast that's level 80, and also it has the champion modifier. It has the crown next to its name. I one-hit killed it with my melee attack. So that speaks volumes about how powerful this build is. So before we actually get into the build and actually every part of it, I'm going to first explain to you how Bloodied works. So if you guys have been living under a rock or don't play Fallout 76 that much, Bloodied is the meta at this current moment. And the way it works is that it focuses on using two things. Adrenal Reaction, which is a mutation that increases your damage at lower health, and then Bloodied, which is the weapon prefix for legendary weapons that allows it so you deal more damage the lower your health is. And by the end of it, between both of them, you can be dealing well over double, maybe even triple damage depending on how low your health is. And then there's a lot of perks and also legendary armors that assist you when you have lower health. So perks like Serendipity and Unyielding prefixes for armors really do stack with what you can do with the lower health. So that is the way it works. You're going to want to be at low health through radiation. I recommend picking up a bunch of toxic goos at West Tech, so that way you can always make sure your radiation is low. Use a bunch of Radaway diluteds, so that way you can only cure some of your rads at a given notice. You don't want to be really too far low on health, but it's nice to be at a safe amount, like right between 30 and 20 if you are really risky, and maybe if you're using a different style of the build, maybe have it always below 20%, but it's really risky when you do that. So the build here, as you can see, it focuses just on having that really low amount of health and always getting right up to my enemy and just killing him as fast as I can. It can one-hit kill most targets. The only thing is that if you're caught in the open and there's a bunch of enemies near you, you're gonna die by it. Like when you're going in AWOL armaments, there's a good chance you can die by all the damage that you'll be taking from the Mr. Gutsies, because it is a lot, and then when there's a lot of them, it's hard for Serendipity to counter all that damage. So especially since you're gonna be right in front of them, it's not the safest. Those are the big counters to it. Any area with a lot of radiation also is really hard to run this build. Like if you're in a nuke zone and you're fighting a lot of glowing ones, they do a lot of work, so you have to be really careful because you have to be popping Radaways constantly. You want to be always checking your health and making sure that you're distancing yourself so that way you don't get swarmed, because that radiation is going to be what kills you when you're fighting glowing ones. As you can see in this clip, you have to be very careful with it because those are the big counters to you. So it's big hordes of enemies and also high radiation enemies like glowing ones. So that is the way that you deal with these builds. If you are up against someone using this in PvP, I recommend using a gamma gun, because that seems to be one of the big counters to me, is that a good gamma gun user will always beat me because of how high my radiation is always. It's just going to cap me off instantaneously, doesn't even have to hit that many shots, and I'm dead. Alright, so now that we're into that, let's go right into the build. So right here is the build that you want to be using for Bloodied melee in Fallout 76. This is probably one of the most disgusting builds I've ever used. And by disgusting, I mean it is disgusting how much damage you can deal with this. It is absurd. So I'm going to go over all the perks, why I like them. You can change some stuff up. I'll give you guys a list of perks you might want to use instead, depending on what your playstyle is. So I like to use unarmed weapons because you can actually get a lot of damage through a mutation and Iron Fist. So you only have to use one perk card for this. If you're using two-handed or one-handed, you're going to have to use 3 perk cards in your strength build, and that takes away a lot of other good choices, which I'm going to show you. So I like to use Barbarian because you want extra damage resistance. When you're doing this build, you're going to be using all unyielding armor, so that means no power armor, and the damage you take is going to be really high. So you want to make sure that you can defend yourself properly. Alright, blocker, because you're going to be right next to your opponents, so if you do not kill them in one hit, they're going to hurt you, and this will reduce the damage by almost half. Alright, so you want to be using this just in case you're hoarded up or something survives a hit and decides to melee you back. Incisor, so that way you can ignore 75% of the target's armor. So you don't need to worry about running an anti-armor weapon. You want to be running Bloodied, and then this will be all the anti-armor you need. Maybe a mod on it. I like using Puncturing on my Power Fist, and that works wonders. With both Incisor and Puncturing, it's like they don't even have armor. Iron Fist for damage, and then Martial Artist for more swing speed. Now, if you're going to use a two-handed or one-handed, I recommend probably taking out Barbarian and possibly Blocker. The other ones are kind of necessary in order to maximize on your damage output. The 30% swing speed, you might not need that if you're running like a Bloodied swing speed super sledge, so you might want to be keeping Blocker instead, but that is how I like to do this. Perception, you don't need any of that, so I just put fire in the hole because it allows me to throw my grenades more accurately. You can also use it so you can use throwing knives or tomahawks more accurately. That's basically the only reason. It's just nice to see the arc so you know exactly where it's going to land. For endurance, now I'm going to like using fireproof because explosions are going to be death of you in PvP and also in PvE. When things explode, taking half damage is a godsend. You're going to love this perk. I love it. It's great for avoiding all those unnecessary deaths due to grenades and random explosions that you run into. Ironclad, just for the extra damage resistance and energy resistance. This could honestly be removed and you can put the 3 skill points somewhere else. This is just where I like to fill it. If you want to be able to lockpick everything, put it in Perception and then like maybe run Glow Sight or Grenadier or something. And then the last one is actually really important because you always have radiation on you. You're gonna love having Radical. This adds a lot more strength to you, more carrying capacity, but most importantly, more melee damage. Lone Wanderer if you do a lot of solo stuff, but if you do not do solo stuff, I recommend running like Party Boy or yeah, just Party Boy basically. Because what Party Boy does is that it makes it so your alcohol is triple the effect. So all you have to do is pop Whiskey every fight. Whiskey will increase your strength by 6 when you use it with Party Boy, and that is a lot of extra damage. But if you're running solo, odds are you're dealing enough damage by yourself. So Lone Wanderer is good. You want that damage resistance and also the AP regen. For intelligence, since you're always at low health, Nerd Rage is good. Below 20% health, you gain 40 damage resistance, which is actually not that much. That's negligible, but that 20% damage and 50% AP regen, that is amazing. The 20% damage really does kick in and allows you to get that little extra oof of damage that you need. So for agility, I run these 4 perks. Action Boy for more AP regen. It's pretty self-explanatory. You want to be able to run fast, run all the time. Dodgy, this one's a questionable one, but I learned that this is really useful, especially since I run a lot of unyielding powered gear. 3 of my armors have powered on it, which means I get increased action point refresh speed, so I always have a lot of AP on me. I like running this perk because that 30% reduced damage is amazing, especially when it stacks with Lone Wanderer, and then it stacks with the Fireproof and the Blocker. Things do not hurt you that much. Evasive, just to get that extra damage resistance and energy resistance. You can always use more of that. Marathoner, just so that way you don't need to worry about that consuming at all that much of your AP, since that is where you're going to be consuming AP. It's not going to usually be needing a power attack because you're going to be dealing enough damage normally with your hits. You don't need to usually use power attacks on your opponents. You can just punch them regularly and it will kill them. So your AP will usually be going towards sprinting to your next enemy, which is really important because it's a melee build and you need to get there as fast as you can. Bloody Mess, more damage the more better, that's what I always say. Class Freak, you're going to be running a lot of mutations, so that way you reduce the actual negative effects by them by 75%, since some of them reduce your strength and agility, which you need as much strength and agility as you can. Grim Reaper Sprint, this is a really good perk that I like to use because it pairs well with dodging. You always use VATS, so that way you can guarantee the melee hits, it connects well, it doesn't get glitchy, and also you can get all your AP back, which is why I'm willing to use dodgy, because I have this way of securing my AP. Serendipity, because you're so low in health, this makes it so half the time basically you're taking no damage, which is huge. You're gonna need that as much as you can. You will be realizing that you can't live without it. If you are not running Serendipity, you're gonna die easily all the time. It's actually not even worth playing with this build if you're not using Serendipity. That is probably the most important perk. If they were gonna nerf Bloodied, if I was a developer, I'd nerf Serendipity, because this is what enables Bloodied builds to be so overpowered and so overwhelming, is that when you're this low in health, you can avoid half the damage you take basically, which is huge. And then for the last one, Starch Genes, so that way you can keep your mutations, and that is the build. Now, I'm going to have a link to the site where I have this on so you guys can follow it if you guys ever need to see it again. The stats are going to be right here, and these are the mutations that I like to run. Alright, so let's go down the list. Adrenal Reaction, more weapon damage or low HP, that pairs hand in hand with Bloodied. Bird Bones, -4 strength, but you get the more agility. When you use that with Class Freak, the -1 strength is negligible, but that agility is really useful. Carnivore, that's just a preference, you don't need to run that. Chameleon, preference, there is no bad side to it, so you can run it if you want to, but you're never gonna really be unarmored, so I don't even bother. Eagle Eyes, you don't need to lose the strength for just that little bit of crit damage, it's not even necessary, and the 4 perception is not necessary at all either. Egghead, again, you don't need to lose strength and endurance for that intelligence. Intelligence doesn't really do anything for the build. Electrically charged, you're so close to your opponents. If they do hit you with their melee, it shocks them, and there's no real bad side to it, so you might as well. Empathy, I hate this perk because I play more solo than anything, and even when you're running it with a teammate that's running Empathy, you need at least 2 other people in the group, so a 3-man group, everybody running Empathy, for it to actually be useful. And even then, it's very situational because you always have to be in that 3-man group. Grounded, more energy resistance, and you're not really using energy gun damage, or energy damage at all, so you kinda can spare that bit of damage for Grounded. Healing factor, you're at such a low health, you don't want to be popping stim packs because you want to be at the cap of your health that allows you to, with all that radiation at all times. So this helps you save stim packs, it's pretty useful. Herb Mentality, you don't need. Herbivore, you can't have if you have Carnivore. Marsupial, I like this because of jump height, allows me to get to the areas that are too high for me, so if there's an enemy on high ground, I can just jump up to him and then use my VATS and a melee, and it can actually teleport lunged towards him and it will finish the job for me, so that is really useful. Scaly Skin, more damage resistance and energy resistance. Speed Demon, get to the opponents faster enough. Talons and Twisted Muscles give you the extra melee damage. Now, Talons is the reason why I like using Unarmed instead. This damage is free and it doesn't take up a perk slot. So I could be running that Blocker or that Barbarian instead. That actually helps me out a lot because, again, this is a lot of extra damage. You're going to want this if you're using it. If you're not using unarmed weapons, you don't need this. You might as well keep the 1 agility that you're going to have. And Unstable Isotope, you can have that if you want. I just find it wonky because it affects me weirdly, but that's just personal preference. And then this is the path that you can take to level up and get everything as fast as you can. You can change it up or if you want. So there we go. That's it. I forgot to put that in there. And just follow this and you'll get everything as soon as you can. Now for weapons, I recommend using any unarmed weapon that has Bloodied on it and swing speed. You're going to want swing speed on it because it allows you to instantly kill everything faster, because that swing speed will allow you to just chain your kills. You don't really need the extra power attack damage because not many enemies will be able to survive more than one hit from you, unless it's like a Scorch Beast Queen or the Imposter Sheep Squatch or just a regular Sheep Squatch. But it takes a lot in order to survive your hits, and you just want to be able to either get that second hit off right away because of faster swing speed, or you want to be able to hit the next target as soon as you can because you're able to swing your fist faster. I recommend using the Power Fist if you get the chance. +1 strength is a great perk to have as your third star for the legendary. And for the armors, I recommend just using Unyielding Cavaliers. If you can't get Unyielding Cavaliers, I recommend just having regular Unyielding armor, +1 strengths if possible, or increased action point refresh speed, but you're going to want Cavalier on it if you get the chance. But the must-have is Unyielding, because the way Unyielding works is that the lower your health, it increases every stat but Endurance by 3. So if you multiply that by 5, you're going to have 15 extra specials for everything else, which means 15 extra strength. And 15 extra strength, it is an insane amount of damage that gets added on. And then if you want to top yourself off even more, if you really are up against a boss that you want an instant kill, I recommend using a Vintage Nuka Shine, because what that will do is that it allows you to get that double unarmed bonus damage in addition to basically infinite AP. The AP regen when you're on Vintage Nuka Shine is so insane that you can just spam power attacks on everybody you see. And so if you're up against an opponent that you really just need to kill right then and there, like if you're trying to speedrun kill a Scorch Beast Queen, I recommend just doing that, and she'll go down instantaneously without even trying. Just get a couple of your buddies to all run the same build like this. It's gonna be laughable how much damage you guys are doing to it. Anyways, that's gonna be it for the video, guys. Hope all of you guys enjoy the videos. Let me know in the comments down below whether you like this type of build video or not, and I'll do some more of them. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good day, guys.